Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strong Start Sundays. My name is Dr. Rachel Edoho-Eket, and I am so excited to be the host of this wonderful show. And let us know in the comments where you are coming from, what your name is, and what your position is. I am so honored to have Principal Kafele on with us tonight. He really needs no introduction, but I'm going to try my best to give a great introduction for him. He is an award-winning teacher and educator. He also is an award-winning principal. He is an incredible author with ASCD, with several best-selling books, and he is an outstanding speaker. And above all of those wonderful things, he is a wonderful mentor to so many people and just a friend, someone that you can count on and call when whatever you need, anything, any advice, or he just is a wonderful person. So Principal Kafele, I told you that this is my Super Bowl. Having you on Strong Start Sundays means so much to me and to the platform. So how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I just had to cough a minute, but I'm feeling really good. Feeling strong.
Awesome. Well, I see some people in the chat who are ready for this conversation tonight. James Clark, he's coming out of Philadelphia. He is a wonderful administrator, and I'm so happy to see you. Thank you, James, for coming on tonight. We're excited for everyone to hear this conversation. We know that there's a lot going on right now, so we want to really value the time that everybody has. I want to start off by sharing our book, Relational Intelligence, the Key Factor to Exceptional School Leadership. Dr. Johnson and I wrote this book for school leaders, specifically for school leaders, to help us keep the wonderful teachers and staff in our buildings and to build those strong relationships with everyone that we serve. So if you haven't had your copy of that yet, head over to teachergoals.com/intelligence to pick up your copy. And I know Principal Kafele has his book here as well. What is my value? And yeah, we both got it. What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? Do you want to do a quick plug for that, Principal Kafele?
Yeah, you can just appreciate that. You can just go to Amazon or ascd.org, right? Either one, or wherever you buy your books. It should be there if it's an education book, but get yourself a copy. I consider it the most important book I've ever written and the most important book that I will probably ever write.
Awesome. And it is a very, very helpful and incredible book. I also see Alicia Blackwood here. She is coming out of Virginia. It's awesome to see you. Thank you so much, Dr. Blackwood, for being here. We excited to have this conversation with you all. So we want to jump right into this. Tonight's episode is all about instructional leadership and how we as school leaders can help support the teachers and staff in our building with really moving those students instructionally and helping them reach higher outcomes in their work. So we want to kind of jump right in and share some strategies. But Principal Kafele, I want to start off with you and letting us know, why is instructional leadership so important to the role of a principal or an assistant principal?
Yeah, I always call instructional leadership where the rubber meets the road. There's so many responsibilities that come along with being a school leader. If we were just to rattle off the various different roles and responsibilities, it would take us probably an hour or so, and probably leaning towards or so. It's a lot, but somewhere in there is this thing called instructional leadership. And that's got to be right there at the top of the list in terms of what our responsibilities are, because that's the coaching. I have a sports mind. You have an athletic mind because you have a background in track and field. And so we both know the significance of coaching, right? There's no such thing as an athlete that you're so great that the coach says, just do your thing. So the mindset has to be that despite the fact that teacher is phenomenal, there's still a need for that on-the-job coaching, professional development, and that's the superstar. But then you got everybody else in the building, from the one who's brand new or struggling all the way to the superstar. There's a need for it, and therefore I put max emphasis on instructional leadership and instructional coaching.
Yeah, and I love that analogy between the athletes. Even where the Olympics are going on right now, that's the highest level that you can get as an athlete. And you're right, those coaches are critical to the athletes finding success. And in the same way, so is a principal and an assistant principal in that role, and making sure that our teachers excel to the level that they need. Because ultimately, when our teachers are excellent practitioners, our students are the people who benefit the most from it, and their families long term. So, like you said, this work is critically important. And I know it is hard for school leaders. I'm speaking for myself. It is hard for school leaders right now because we are tasked and pulled in so many different directions. So,
Yeah.
what's your advice for school leaders who are extremely busy right now? You know, we have report cards, conferences, we have parents that may come up to the school. We have lots of things that are going on throughout our day. So, how can we really work to prioritize some of what we're expected to do around instructional leadership?
Yeah, I don't go too many places without having the mirror with me. It's got two in the bag. I got them sitting here. I keep them around me. And as it relates to the question, we have to ask ourselves, why are we here? Right? What's at the core of why we exist in these buildings, in these roles as principal and assistant principal? And right there at the core, to really simplify it, is to say to ensure that children are learning. We can add the word achieving at high levels, etc. But still, right there at the center, right there at the core, is to learn. So therefore, if the point is they're coming in to learn, what's happening in the classroom to increase the probability that learning is in fact occurring? Well, we know that the biggest determinant to whether or not a youngster is going to learn is the classroom teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So am I going into a classroom with a teacher with the level of proficiency that will increase the probability that I'm going to in fact learn, and if I could add achieve at high levels?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as I say, probably every day of my professional life, the conferences that exist, the books, the podcasts, the seminars, the articles, the blog posts, the PLNs, the everything out there, none of those people are going to walk into a classroom and inform the teacher of their effectiveness in implementing what they learn from those various different sources. The true professional learning is between administration, instructional coaches, and that classroom teacher. So one could make the excuse, I've got so much on my plate, and it's a valid excuse. But now we've got to look at, well, how do we shift what we do so that instructional leadership becomes the priority, right? So
Yeah.
so it's typical for someone to say, well, the culture of my school just doesn't allow me to, or said better, the behavior of my students doesn't allow me to be that instructional leader. Well, my response is always, it's not so much the behavior of children, it's the culture, the prevailing culture of that school that's giving license to some of these undesirable behaviors. Because you can take that same youngster and put him in a different classroom, or that same youngster and put him in a different school, and chances are, if the culture is significantly different, you may see different outcomes out of that young person. So we got to prioritize what's most important, and then look at whatever those impediments are that are
Yeah.
keeping us from being the instructional leaders that we desire to be.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think that mirror is so important because I, of course, am also doing a lot of reflecting in my role, not only as a principal in my school, but also as principal of our state organization in Maryland, and thinking about how can we support the work of school leaders so that we're in a better position to support our teachers and our staff members. And you and I were talking offline a little bit, but I just had a chance to go to Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. this week with the National Organization of Elementary School Principals. And one of the things that we talked about was what are some of those impediments to the work, and how can we get funding in place so that we're able to support students in a better way, so that we're able to retain the best teachers in our buildings, because we know when we have great teachers in our buildings, we have the stability that our students and families need to be successful. So I appreciate that, because it really dovetails beautifully into this conversation that, yes, as principals and school leaders, we are extremely busy. And at the same time, we still have to find ways to prioritize being in classrooms and giving feedback to teachers that they need to get better. So I want to take a little pause here and share some more. I see Principal Kafeli, we're going to add something else to that.
No, you good.
All right, so I want to lift up Letron Alexander, that, great teachers inspire students to engage in that learning experience, like Principal Kafele said. You're getting from Vince, it's great to see you. The load is heavy, but coaching has to be the priority. Yes, Vincent Taylor, it's great to see you. Classroom culture is significant to the student learning. And I see Josh Tovar here. It's so good to see you. Thank you for joining us from Texas, Josh. It's always wonderful to see you. Yeah. So we want to share what are some practical tips for school leaders to really help us in this work. And I know Principal Kafele has a lot of great things to share. But the first one we want to think about is principals and assistant principals should be the lead learner. And what do we mean by that? That means that principals should be engaging in the professional learning alongside our teachers. It's one thing if we're, giving an assignment saying, hey, teachers, you have to be at this meeting at this time. You go over and do that. But it's different to say that I'm going to join you in the learning. I'm going to ask questions, because all of us are educators and all of us are learners. We're learners first. And it makes a big difference for our credibility when we know the curriculum, when we know the instructional practices, when we know the scope and sequence. And one of the ways that we can do that is by participating in planning sessions, participating in the data meetings, being present when we have professional learnings provided from either ourselves or from our districts. Yeah. What would you add to that, Principal Fele?
Yeah. I think about those administrative leadership team meetings a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And I did a whole lot of reading and research and digging. I wanted to know some time ago, how often do NFL coaches, National Football League, how often do they meet without the team present, right? Mm-hmm. And I learned that anywhere from 25 to 40 hours a week is just the coaches together, right? So then when you couple in all the time that's spent with the team, right? It's really inordinate, right? But let's look at the number of hours that the coaches are just together collaborating, studying film, breaking down film, all that kind of stuff, right? Well, 40 hours, it's like a work week for the average person, right? And the game itself is 60 minutes. Right, not the TV time that it's on the air for 3 hours because of all the timeouts and halftime show, pregame, postgame, all that kind of stuff. But the game itself is 60 minutes. So I said, wow, they are collaborating for 40 hours for a 60-minute game. Mm-hmm. So then I transferred that over to the school and I said, wow, a period could be almost 60 minutes and a block is more than 60 minutes. So then I say, okay, so principal, because I have this conversation with countless principals. How often, when a principal has at least one AP and whomever else would be on the leadership team, how often is your team coming together? How frequent is that? And I've learned it's a very uncomfortable question for many, not all. But for many, and many will say, I get various different responses, but the prevailing response could be something like, maybe once a week we'll come together for an hour and just kind of talk about things. And I'm like, wow. So once a week, but again, just a period alone was almost the same length of time as a football game.
Yeah.
Why aren't we coming together to talk about the specificity of the building, but particularly around instruction? Mm-hmm. Because if we're getting in the classrooms, we're seeing things from our vantage point as individual that my teammate may be seeing other things. And now when are we going to have a conversation about those things, right? Because maybe there's some transfer in the good that we saw, and I can go on and on with that. That's a whole seminar. But the point is, that collaboration is crucial. Mm-hmm. I know now, I like the collaboration existed in my practice as a principal, but I know now as a consultant more so than I did when I was in it. Because as a practitioner, I'm seeing my own school. As a consultant, I'm seeing hundreds of schools. Mm-hmm. I'm like, wow, that's a missing ingredient that must be there.
Yeah.
Because if it's not there, then we're just going about our business. But as the head, the leadership, we're not having conversations.
I agree.
Matters most.
Those conversations are critical. And we're going to talk about that a little later. Just the importance of that collaborative planning time, giving teachers time to meet together, to share strategies. Us as leaders putting structures in place so that teachers can go see each other. You know, one of the hardest things I think about being a teacher, and I think about myself when I was a new teacher, it was hard for me to go next door and see someone teaching unless coverage was provided for me in my classroom to do that. And so as school leaders, we can think about what structures can we put into place so that our teachers can see each other's classroom. You know, you can learn so much from watching another master teacher, especially when in your own school. So that's something that I wanted to lift up, because I think as school leaders, we can work on putting those structures in place so that teachers have time to collaboratively plan, but also seeing each other in practice is really important. So there are some people who I want to
real quick. Imagine, just to build off of what you just said, imagine that school that does in fact have master teachers, and the others, particularly the struggling teacher or the new teacher, never have opportunity to see this teacher teach.
Yeah.
Right? Then I can't learn from people in the building. It's problematic.
It is, yeah. And I will say shout out to our school. We have 11 National Board Certified teachers this year. We doubled our number from last year. And the teachers are absolutely incredible. And there's one on almost every team. And so just think about the resources that you have within your building for those master and lead teachers to really guide some of that instructional leadership, and also providing a model for your newer teachers, and not only the new teachers who are coming up through those traditional programs. You and I talked about this, Principal Kafele. We have a lot of second career teachers in our buildings who are coming not from an educational background, but may have a degree in something different, but they have a heart for teaching and a heart for children. But they need additional supports in place as well, because they didn't come through that traditional programming. So utilizing the people in our building is a very effective strategy to use.
That's right. And I came in the same way. I came in from corporate America.
I don't think I knew that.
Oh yeah. My major was marketing.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So I went straight into corporate America, an insurance company, and did that for 2 years, and I hated every minute of it. And I had found my why, my purpose while I was in undergrad school, but I didn't want to start over. And I went on and did the college, the corporate thing, but within it, I knew that this is not the place for me. So I went on and started teaching in New York City.
That is beautiful. I mean, that is your calling. It's very clear. Yeah. And so I think it's important for us to think about who are those teachers in our buildings that we are recruiting into our districts and into our schools who may not have come through that traditional programming, but they have a heart for this work.
That's right.
And how can we take care of them so that they are successful? Yeah. So that's a really powerful story that you have, Principal Kafele, coming from corporate America, realizing you want to pivot in a different direction and look at your impact. Look what you're able to do.
Yeah, completely different direction.
Yes. I love it. So there are a couple of people who we want to say hello to. Edwin Garcia, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Roz Gasson, it's so good to see you. Yes, we have to be intentional. Doc McGee-Verdina, it's so great to see you from Illinois. Yes, she's shouting out Shika Houston and Stacey L. Joy, just wonderful. Antonio, thank you for joining us. I'm not sure where you're joining from, but it's great to see you. We got some more people. Dr. Joe Griffin is on. Roz says that she's going to be putting on peer observations onto the teacher schedules. Thank you, Roz, because I think that's really going to be powerful for your school. And I'm going to do the same. I want you to know that when I'm having these podcasts, I'm also writing down my notes too. Like, this is something that I need to do as I'm hearing from guests. So thank you for that. Sean Hurd is here as well. So we love that. And thank you. Just keep the comments coming. We're going to be putting those up as we come. But I want to move on to our next strategy. And that is making classroom visibility a non-negotiable. We need to be in classrooms. And Principal Kafele and I bond on this point all the time. You cannot lead from inside of your office. You are not going to be effective in doing that. And so what can you tell us, Principal Kafele, around that point?
Yeah. let me approach it from this angle. And I see one of my former teachers, Miss Sill. I see you, Miss
All
Sill.
right.
Good to see you. She worked with me on my staff at North Tech. Listen, there was a time when the best word I could come up with was flirting with becoming a superintendent.
Okay.
And it wasn't my own initiative. It was districts recruiting me.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and sat in on about 4 or 5 different districts interviews. And one of the things that I would say to them as it relates to the question is, I said, I don't really want this. And I said, I don't think you'd want me if I put this in effect. And here's what I mean. If I'm superintendent, the children, as important as they are not the most important person to me relative to my role as superintendent. The most important person for me as superintendent would be the building principals.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be able to go to sleep at night, put my head on the pillow, knowing that each school is being led by a competent leader. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, I've got to be in schools, not micromanaging, but I've got to be in schools. I've got to see the principal in action, not just get reports from the principal in terms
Sure.
of paperwork or even discussions at a principal's meeting or an evaluation meeting, which is only twice a year. I need to get into that school and I need to see what's happening. I need to not be able to find the principal, right? Because the principal is either in a meeting in relative to instruction with the coaching session with the teacher, or the teacher's in classroom somewhere. I don't know where he is. I don't know where she is, because this person understands the role. That way, then I can feel good that I have
Mm-hmm.
instructional leadership in the school. So directly to the question, as principal, we have to make that priority,
Mm-hmm.
right? Going back to my opening words, that has to be priority, that I have to live in these classrooms, but it's not confined to the classroom, because there's got to be a conversation that occurs before I walk into the classroom. Every time I walk in, no. But when I'm in the process of being methodical, of
Mm-hmm.
growing a teacher, then there's got to be a conversation that we're discussing that area that we mutually agree we can make you better here.
Mm-hmm.
So now I tell you the time I'm going to be there, and I'm at the day and time, and then I'm there at the precise time. I'm not going to pop in and surprise you, because we're being methodical in the whole effort. So I'm going to be there at the time, and I'm not in there to see everything the eyes can see. I'm there to see that which we discussed, and
Mm-hmm.
then I want to follow up after that visit with soon after, with a conversation around what I saw, and what my suggestions are, what we mutually recommend, and then we move forward. And it's just a methodical relationship to help that teacher to get from point A to point B.
Yeah. And I think what you just described is perfectly is intentional. That's the word that I
Yeah,
would use.
yeah,
You're meeting with teachers ahead of time. You are saying, here's what I'm looking for, or you're asking the teacher. Sometimes the teacher will say, I want feedback in this specific area. And we will give that feedback as well. So, and then that is that turnaround time of going in, looking at the students learning, not just looking at teacher moves, but yes, looking at teacher moves, but also what are the students doing? What are they doing in their independent work? What are they doing when they're with the teacher? What are they doing when they're with their peers? And then providing that feedback that is helpful, and doing it in a cycle, doing it in a way where the timing makes sense and that they know you're going to return back to follow up.
yeah.
So all that is really important in terms of instructional leadership. And another thing I wanted to share is, these visits don't have to be long. There was a time when we thought, okay, we have to sit in for a class for 60 minutes or 75 minutes. But sometimes it truly is you're going in for that specific purpose. You're in there for 10 to 15 minutes. You're taking structured notes and you're providing feedback. So that's one thing that I've had to think about in terms of shifting my practice. It's overwhelming for me to think about getting into every teacher's classroom for an hour. But if I can see a team of my teachers in an hour, then I can be intentional about the feedback that I'm providing.
Yeah.
So that's something else for school leaders to think about as we are trying to prioritize this work, because that's what we need to be doing.
And I would add to that as well. when we're in the process of growing and developing a teacher, you don't have to spend a whole hour, a whole block in a classroom when the whole intent is to see a particular skill,
Right.
right? Because again, we're not in there to see the totality of a lesson. We're working with a teacher in a very specific area of his or her practice. So that may be a shorter visit, so that now you can build in time to do other things, which is inclusive of seeing other teachers, right? Whether it be in the classroom or whether it be coaching. But you don't have to spend whole blocks in
Right.
class periods when it's an evaluation. When we're talking about something summative, that's something very different. But this conversation here is all formative,
Yes.
right? So there's just a stark difference between the two.
Yes, there's that distinction. Thank you for that. We've had some more people joining, so I want to give a couple of shout outs. Annette is here from Illinois.
Yes,
We have someone joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. I don't know if it's the morning there, but we are so wonderful, so
good
happy
to
to
see
see
you.
you. Principal Kafele, someone said there, Olivia says she's excited to see you at your session tomorrow for nurturing your greatness session tomorrow.
Looking forward to seeing you. I'm not presenting, but I'll be hosting, and anytime there's a mic somewhere near, I will grab it. So
Awesome. Yes, we can count on that.
yeah,
Dr. Tangi Scales is here, and she said that she does peer observations at her school also. So, and yes, we need to be in our classrooms. That's right. Or you said in those school streets. Yes, we
yeah,
need to be there. And Josh Tovar is shouting out his superintendent. That he talks about the importance of having a great principal in the
yeah.
school. And
I,
so,
I
yes,
agree with
that
that.
makes a big difference of who is in there. And James is lifting up, that bite-sized action steps and following up are
Yeah,
important. So I think that is what can make it manageable for us as school leaders. So thank you, James, for lifting that up. Annette is just saying that she loves those look-fors and the non-negotiable documents and adding those to her. I think that's a great idea, Annette. Thank you for lifting that up and sharing that. Chris, hello and welcome. It's great to see you. Jermaine is from New Jersey. That's Principal Kafele's town. So thank
yeah.
you for
Well,
that.
Chris too. He's in
And
not
Chris, okay.
he's in my the city. We
All
both
right.
here in Jersey City. I see you,
Wonderful.
Chris. Good to see you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Edwin is talking about how he gets into his classrooms every day, and then he goes with his APs to also collaborate as an instructional leadership team. I love that. I love that you are including your assistant principals in this work. Principal Kafele is very, very strong point of view on the role of an assistant principal,
Yeah,
that they're not only disciplinarian and bus stops and all of those things, that assistant principals are instructional leaders in our building. So thank you, Edwin, for lifting that important point up. And then Dr. Blackwood is just saying, intentionality is key. It's not a gotcha, right? This is not a gotcha. We are in this together, and we are here to support the work of our teachers. So thank you for lifting that up. All right. So we want to now transition to our last point as we are coming down, and that's around building a culture of instructional excellence. And what does that look like? And we know, first of all, it starts with high expectations for all students, not some, all students. And I know, Principal Kafele, you are an each and
I'm an
every
each guy.
student.
Yeah,
That's right. You're an each guy. I remember. I know that about you well, because each makes it even more personalized, in my opinion, as well.
yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything on that about building that culture of excellence?
Yeah, well, I'll just say this with given the amount of time that's left,
Yeah.
that building that culture of excellence, it's all inclusive. It's all of us, but it starts with you, the leader, right? It starts with that conversation that you have with your staff about what that vision is. Like we all have our own personal vision, right? But we've also got a school vision. If there is no school vision, then we have work to do, right? If there's no school mission, we have work to do. But then we come in with our own leadership vision. And whatever that vision is going to be associated with this culture that we're talking about of excellence that we're trying to build. But you've got to have a staff that understand that we're not here to play. We are very serious. We are very intentional about this culture of excellence where everything that we do in that building is about being excellent.
Yeah. And
And
in
we'll define
alignment.
what excellence means. Even that's part of the conversation, because
Mhm.
because without definition, then it's vague. right? So
Yes.
we'll define what we mean by
Yeah.
excellence, and then that becomes the standard, and then here we go.
Yeah, and that's something I want to do at my school, is also thinking about that vision and our mission and what does excellent looks like. Can we get on the same page with that? Because you're
Yeah,
so true. What's excellent for you might be different than me, and we need to be on one accord. We need to be aligned in what our vision is as a school so that we can all move forward in the same direction. So as we are getting ready to wrap up, I want to do a quick summary of some of the points that we discussed. And I also want to lift up Principal Kafele's book, What is My Value Instructionally to the Teachers That I Serve. It is an excellent book, and we hope you enjoy that. We want to just share, number one, our first strategy that we talked about was principals and assistant principals are the lead learners in our buildings. We all have something to learn. We never know it all. And sitting in those collaborative planning sessions with our teachers, sitting in PD, learning the scope and sequence so that when we go into a classroom, we know what we're looking for is critically important. The second strategy is around being visible, making classroom visible a non-negotiable and the norm. When you walk into a classroom, it should not stop. If you do that, that's how you know you're not in enough. So if that happens, make sure you are in more till people get used to seeing you and you're providing that intentional feedback that we talked about. And then finally, building that culture of instructional excellence. What does that mean? How do we know that? You have to get your teachers and staff together to talk about it so that you can get on the same page and moving your students forward. So those are just some of the points that we wanted to lift up tonight. As we are getting ready to close, I have a couple more comments that are in. Donna, thank you so much for joining us. Donna, again, it looks like Principal Kafele knows you very well.
Oh yeah.
David James, he said he loves your new book. So, and he loves your session. So thank you so much for being here tonight. I want to give you just a little preview for what's coming up next month for Strong Start Sundays. First of all, on March 1st, mark your calendars, March 1st at 7, we are going to be having Dr. Kip Glazer on. She is someone that I've had an opportunity to meet at FETC, and her work is around AI and leadership. So this is a conversation you definitely want to be seated for. We know artificial intelligence is a big part of our jobs, and our teachers are learning it. We are learning it as well. And then Dr. Tanji Scales, who is on the call, will be joining us on March 15th. And we are going to be talking about ways to delegate because we are busy and we're going to become busier as the year goes on. And so we're going to give you some really high level strategies that you can use right away. So we are excited to see you next month. We're getting some good compliments. So we want to share some of these going through. And thank you again for being here tonight. Principal Kafele, as I said, this was my Super Bowl. This is a full circle moment for me. I did your podcast. Gosh, it was in, I think, 2024. I think was the first time I was on. And I just am extremely appreciative for the leadership model that you are and that you provide for so many of us. You're getting some compliments on your sweatshirt, Principal Kafele. I would lift that up.
Sister. That's
all right.
Yeah. I see you, Haley.
Awesome. But again, we're just so thankful that you all are here with us tonight. And we're wishing you a wonderful week ahead. Some of us are off tomorrow for President's Day. Yeah. And so then we'll be back in school. But if we know we have listeners from all over the world, so we're just wishing you a wonderful start to your week. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we will see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks again for joining us tonight.